Welcome back. Now, the United States has invited the Malaysian Home Minister, Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Hussein, to go over to discuss ways to combat human trafficking and human smuggling, which is quite a big issue over here. What sort of collaboration do you think we can work out?
Well, on that substantive issue, we make this a conversation with every country in the world. And Secretary Clinton said we're now going to rate ourselves. We have a requirement from Congress to sort of rate the country's efforts in this regard, and the United States is included in that. Our special envoy for this issue, Ambassador Lucy Dabaka, was just out a few weeks ago, had excellent conversations throughout the government, including with the Minister, Hishamuddin, also with civil society. I think Malaysia has made some significant progress, and clearly there's a great desire here, and I think it's reflected in the desire of the Minister to visit the United States to talk about this, to see what we can do to combat this, as it's called, and quite rightly, modern day slavery. So we've, I think we're sharing best practices among governments and countries. We see a very useful role for the non-governmental community that I think is being appreciated and increasing here in Malaysia. There's an important role for prosecutions. Sometimes laws and cooperation between prosecutors and police need to be upgraded, but really it's an issue we all confront. We all can learn from each other, and that's one of the great benefits of having someone like the Home Minister come visit Washington.
Okay. Now, looking at the various ways that two governments can work together, Malaysia has been hailed as a moderate Muslim country. Do you see two governments maybe working together in terms of promoting religious moderation?
You know, Secretary Clinton was so struck by this. I mean, when she came, she was familiar with Malaysia, but she actually had never visited, which is saying something about how perhaps the relationship between our countries hadn't been at the proper level. I think there's an incredibly vibrant conversation going on here. You know, I'm pretty active on Twitter, just going up on Facebook, and that's just there. You see real debate about some of the issues that confront all of us in terms of, for example, what Secretary Clinton focused on, the role of women in society, in a Muslim society, a Muslim majority society, but entrepreneurship, innovation, how we should work together on things like health and education. There's a vibrant conversation going here, and I think when we connect the leaders in our government, it spurs programs that then the private sector, the think tank and foundations get involved in, and people-to-people get involved in. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot we can learn from the experiences going on here in Malaysia, and perhaps vice versa.
Okay. Now, on a broader note, what sort of plans does the U.S. government have for 2011? How would it shape the bilateral relationship between the U.S. and Malaysia?
Well, as I said at the outset, I think 2010 was an extremely significant year. We had a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Najib and President Obama back in April. They met again in September in New York at the UN General Assembly, and I think there's a real rapport there. There's real understanding and desire to keep up the communications. Secretary Clinton, Secretary Gates were here. We've had a number of other senior visitors here. I'm sort of hosting a delegation every week. The other way, your foreign minister, your attorney general, your defense minister all visited Washington in 2010. I think we're going to see a continuation of that in 2011 because I think the conversation has started and there's more to discuss how our governments can work more closely together. What I want to do and what I think we have an opportunity to do next year is, as I indicated, to pull in the foundations, the people-to-people connections to be more part of that conversation. There are real interesting thinking going on here. The connections with some of the institutions in the United States I find to be a little ad hoc, and maybe we can institutionalize. I think there's some tremendous work happening in some foundations in the United States, such as the Bill Gates Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, that would be of great interest to some non-governmental organizations here, and perhaps we can partner in third countries for some positive programs where Malaysia may have a contribution, and the United States could have a contribution. So I've got a lot of plans, a lot of interest, a lot of ideas out there, and I think there's a lot of enthusiasm. One other, if I could just comment on, so we didn't talk very much about youth. That's a great focus of ours here and in many places in the world. We hosted this tremendous weekend camp called a Click Camp. It was carried in the NST, a nice story about it. What we did was we brought together about 200 Malaysian students of English, an after-school English language program that the United States Embassy supports. We brought them together with some of their teachers, some of their Malaysian English teachers and some from the state of Terengganu, where we have a very interesting program of English teaching assistants going on. And then we brought in recent alumni of exchange programs in the United States. And we've started last year a partnership, a new alumni partnership between Malaysia and American exchange students. So we set up a situation where the mentors are the exchange students, and the camp was all English. It was 4 days of, you can't speak any Malaysian, all English. We incorporated entrepreneurism seminars, English. We brought in a specialist in teaching English as a second language from Ohio. She worked with all of the English teachers. On Sunday, we all went out and did community service projects. This is an example of the kind of connections that I think we can expand on next year. There's a wonderful guy. Sorry, I go on at length, but it's a subject I'm really passionate about. A wonderful 15-year-old kid here in Malaysia named Mogan, who is a leader, emerged as a leader in this camp, and has been just dying to set up every small business he can and to do community service in his community. The leader of the Malaysian American Alumni Partnership is a 21-year-old, Faisal Hassan. Incredibly impressive, smart young man who is going to help, I think, Malaysians and Americans come together in a lot of ways among the younger generation. That's of great interest to us.
Right. Thank you very, very much for joining us on this show today.
Well, it's been a great pleasure and great pleasure speaking with you, and particularly this holiday season.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, to you too.
That's a wrap of 2010 Newsmakers. I'm Sharon Tang with His Excellency, the U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia, Paul W. Jones. Thanks for watching.